she never expected you to walk away. She assumed your loyalty was permanent, that no matter how far she wandered, you'd still be there, waiting, watching, hoping. To her, you were the fallback, the quiet, reliable man in the background, not the storm, not the one who disappears and doesn't come back. But something happened. Not a fight, not a final goodbye, just silence. You stopped chasing her energy. You stopped needing her attention to feel like a man. You stopped waiting for her to notice your worth. And that shift, subtle but seismic, rattled her. It wasn't sadness. It was confusion first, then discomfort, then regret. Because now she's questioning what she really walked away from. Was it just a man who once loved her? Or was it a man who evolved into everything she never believed he could be? And here you are, not playing games, not seeking revenge. You're here because you've been through the storm. You've sat with the silence, the detachment, the ache of letting go. Or maybe, just maybe, you've already started to rebuild. Wherever you are in your journey, you're not alone. And if this message hits you in the chest, if it mirrors a truth you've been carrying in silence, then make it count. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop one word below that defines who you're becoming. Unshakable, because here at the Stoic Spirit, we don't chase, we don't beg, we rise, we rebuild, we become the shift. There comes a moment in every man's life when something inside him quietly breaks and then rebuilds itself in silence. Not because she came back, not because closure arrived, not because time healed him, but because he stopped. He stopped chasing something that had already let go of him. He stopped orbiting a woman who had long stopped revolving around him. He stopped looking for signs in silence, meaning in absence, and worth in someone else's validation. And here's the truth. Most men miss. Chasing isn't always about texting, calling, or pleading. Sometimes chasing is emotional. It's mental. It's spiritual. It's when your thoughts still follow her, even when your feet don't. It's when you check her online status like it's a habit hardwired into your nervous system. It's when you rehearse conversations in your head that she's no longer interested in having. This kind of chasing is invisible, but it drains you all the same. Silently, slowly, powerfully. But then, one day, a shift begins. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. You wake up. You realize you're tired of waiting for the message that never comes. Tired of decoding silence like it's a secret language. Tired of tying your self-worth to someone who already chose distance. And so, you stop. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You don't need a final message. You don't write a dramatic goodbye. There is no emotional announcement. The shift happens within. Quiet, steady, real. Your mind begins to reclaim space, the space she used to occupy. The mental real estate you'd been renting out to memories, to hope, to illusions. That space, it's valuable, and now it's yours again. You stop scrolling her page. You stop checking if she watched your story. You stop caring when she was last online. Instead, you start investing in what matters. Your mind, your body, your craft, your peace. The energy that once fed a fading connection now nourishes your own evolution. You're no longer orbiting her world. You're building your own. And for the first time in a long time, that feels right. And this is the part that most men don't expect. She feels it, not always consciously, not in obvious ways, but energetically. She senses the shift. That quiet tension she once knew how to pull is gone. That emotional string she used to tug to test if you still cared, it's been cut. You're not cold. You're not cruel. You're just gone. Emotionally, spiritually, unavailable in a way she never imagined. And it disorients her. She was used to you responding. She was used to your emotional availability, even when you weren't physically around. She believed she held a space in your heart that was untouchable. But now, that space is quiet, still, closed. And here's what most women never expect. Emotional power is something they often take for granted until it's gone. You were her emotional anchor, whether she admitted it or not. But when you chose yourself, truly chose yourself, she lost that influence. Not because you needed to prove something, but because you stopped negotiating your worth. You stopped trading your peace for potential. You stopped bending for someone who stopped meeting you halfway. And something sacred happens in that moment. You return to yourself, fully, without explanation, without conflict, without permission. And that, brother, is the real shift. Not revenge, not emotional games, not trying to make her regret it, but rising, quietly, with dignity, with self-respect. You realize your value doesn't live in her perception of you. Your strength isn't rooted in whether she sees it, and your peace isn't something she can grant or take away. You've reclaimed your center. The ground beneath your feet feels solid again. And here's the irony. The moment you stop needing her energy is the exact moment she starts feeling yours disappear. Because when you finally stop chasing mentally, emotionally, energetically, you become a man she can no longer read, no longer access, no longer move. And that silence, it speaks louder than any final text ever could. The psychology. Most men are never taught this. Not by their fathers, not by society, not even by their own experiences, until it's too late. They grow up believing that love means sacrifice, and that emotional support, no matter how one-sided, is a virtue. But what no one teaches you is this. Emotional availability is a currency, and like any currency, its value depends on scarcity and where it's spent. Give too much of it to someone who doesn't value it, and its worth collapses. You thought that showing up, being there, listening, caring, checking in, was evidence of strength. You thought your patience proved loyalty. Your vulnerability proved depth. Your consistency made you irreplaceable. And in a way, it did. But only to a point. There's a hidden cost to being endlessly emotionally available. You become invisible. Not because she's cruel, not because she's manipulating you, but because human nature devalues what feels permanent. What's always there becomes background noise, like music in another room, pleasant, familiar, and completely taken for granted. Even if she walks away, even if she dates someone else, even if she blocks you, ghosts you, or says she's doing somewhere deep in her mind, she still believes you care, still believes you're checking her stories, still believes you'd answer her if she ever reached out, still believes you haven't really moved on. That belief, it's her emotional safety net, not because she plans to return, but because she's convinced you're still orbiting emotionally, mentally, energetically. Now imagine what happens when that net disappears. No closure, no dramatic last message, no visible collapse, just silence. Not the kind that waits for a response, the kind that no longer needs one. You're gone, not physically, but emotionally. No reaction, not chasing, no curiosity about where she is or who she's with. And that breaks the psychological pattern. She expected grief. She expected longing. She expected you to hurt loudly. But instead, you healed quietly. And that's disarming, because now she has to reconsider everything she assumed about her role in your life. Your detachment isn't loud, but it's powerful. It short-circuits the emotional script she wrote for you. She expected to be missed, to be watched, to live rent-free in your emotional world. But now, she can't find the door anymore. And human beings hate confusion, especially when they once held control. So what happens next? Reflection. Not out loud, not in a message, not on social media, but deep within. A quiet conversation starts in her head. Did I misread him? Was he more stable than I thought? Did I mistake his softness for weakness? These aren't ego questions. They're questions born from the collapse of a comfort zone. She saw you as emotional, reactive, attached. She thought you'd wait, stay broken, remain predictable. But now, she sees something else. You evolved. Not for her, not because she left, but because something inside you clicked. You were giving too much to someone who never asked for it. And so, you stopped. And in that stillness, you took something back. Power. Not power to control her. Power to no longer be controlled by her absence. She no longer controls your mood with her silence. She no longer triggers your anxiety with delayed replies. She no longer owns the emotional remote in your hand. And when that power is removed, a vacuum is created. She feels it, not always consciously, but deeply. Her emotional world is disrupted, and in that space, a mirror appears, not a mirror of you, a mirror of herself. She starts seeing what she chose, the patterns she repeats, the kind of man she let go, the way she always assumed love would wait forever. And it stings, not always because she wants you back, but because now she doesn't get to be part of your transformation. You're no longer a supporting role in her narrative. She's been written out of yours. And what replaced her? Purpose, discipline, growth, not as a performance, not to be seen, but because you finally saw yourself. She's no longer comparing you to who you were. She's now comparing herself to who you've become. And if your evolution outpaces hers emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that reflection becomes painful, not jealousy, not rage, but an uncomfortable truth. I no longer have influence in the story I used to control. And that's what true detachment creates. It's not just about letting go. It's about becoming someone unreachable to the person who used to control you without even realizing it. So the next time you think silence is passive, remember this. Silence is not emptiness. It's a message. It says, I don't owe you an explanation. I don't need you to understand. I made peace without your permission. That's not weakness. That's not spite. That's psychological sovereignty, the kind of power no one gives you, because it's the kind you take back the moment you stop chasing and start leading yourself. The power of silence. There's a kind of strength that doesn't speak. It doesn't shout. It doesn't explain itself, but it changes everything. It's called silence. Most men never learn this strength because it doesn't look like what we've been taught to admire. It doesn't dominate. It doesn't demand. It simply withdraws quietly, completely, not out of fear, not out of spite, but out of power. True silence is not emptiness. It's the final form of clarity, the kind you reach when you've said enough, felt enough, and finally understand that nothing more needs to be said. You're not ignoring her. You're honoring yourself. You've tried. You've expressed. You've extended grace. You gave chances, even when they weren't earned. But now, You give yourself distance, not to punish her, but to protect your peace, and that's what she notices. At first, it's subtle. She may not even realize it's happening, but slowly, it builds. The stillness, the absence of reaction, the space where you used to respond, explain, justify, it's gone. She expected tension. She expected you to flinch, to prove you still cared, to fight for what was already broken. Instead, you offer silence, and that silence speaks more than any words ever could. It tells her, I'm no longer trying to fix what disrespected me. I don't need to be heard to know I'm right. My peace is more valuable than this cycle. That's the moment everything shifts. She used to hold power in your mind, even in absence. She knew how to pull your strings with silence, delay, distance. But now, your silence isn't reactive. It's not a strategy. It's a state of being. You've stopped explaining, stopped chasing closure, stopped needing her to understand your worth. That's the real evolution. It's not about making her regret. It's not about waiting for her to notice. It's about no longer needing her to. You've reclaimed your energy, redirected it back into your body, your goals, your discipline, into your peace. And the man who lives in peace, he becomes a mirror she wasn't ready to look into, a reflection of everything she underestimated, because now you're not seeking approval. You're living with conviction. You're not replaying old conversations. You're writing new chapters. That quiet confidence, it's unshakable because it isn't built on attention. It's built on self-respect. And here's what most women don't expect. Your silence doesn't beg. It doesn't perform. It doesn't punish. It just is. It stands, unmoving, undeniable. And in that silence, she starts hearing everything she never listened to before. She starts remembering the man who once gave too much, the man who bent, who tried, who waited. And now, that man is gone. Not bitter, not broken, but reborn. You didn't go quiet out of weakness. You went quiet because growth doesn't announce itself. It simply moves forward. So when she checks your page, sends a message, tries to feel where you used to be, she'll feel something unfamiliar. Stillness. You've stopped being available. Not just online, but emotionally, spiritually. You're not cold. You're centered. You're not avoiding. You're aligned. And that shift, it's irreversible, because silence, when rooted in self-respect, is louder than any speech, any explanation, any final goodbye. It says, I no longer respond to your absence. I no longer live to be chosen. I no longer ask to be seen. You've stopped waiting. You've stopped hoping. You've stopped spinning in circles. Now you walk forward, eyes ahead, voice kept, power intact. That's the power of silence. And once you've mastered it, you never go back. When she starts noticing, so when she starts to wonder where the attention went, when she checks your page and sees no trail to follow, when she sends a vague message and all she hears is silence, she doesn't just feel ignored. She feels something deeper, replaced, not by another woman, but by something far more threatening, purpose. She senses that you no longer orbit her world, and that realization unsettles her, because you didn't go silent to get her back. You didn't disappear to create longing. You did it because you finally stopped asking for clarity from someone who chose confusion. You stopped explaining yourself, stopped waiting for a response, stopped performing emotional labor that was never reciprocated. You finally saw yourself and understood your worth wasn't tied to her recognition. That realization, it didn't just change how you feel, It changed who you are, not because your heart shut down, but because you finally shielded it. Silence, in this case, is not absence. It's control. It's not avoidance. It's protection. And when you stopped chasing her, you started facing yourself. You filled the silence with discipline, movement, creation. And now, she starts to notice. It never happens right away. Not the way most men imagine. No sudden phone call. No heartfelt apology. It creeps in quietly. She lingers a little longer on your photos. She scrolls but doesn't like anything. She revisits your stories, not out of nostalgia, but confusion. You were supposed to wait. You were supposed to chase. You were supposed to be stuck in that emotional loop forever. But now, you've become unreadable. Your silence creates an unexpected vacuum, and where she once had emotional control, she now finds distance. She can't bridge, because she no longer knows how you feel, or if you feel anything at all. And that lack of predictability, it disrupts her balance. Because human beings don't just want control, they fear losing it. So she might test the waters, a vogue message, a comment on something old, an emoji with no context. But none of these are declarations. They're probes. She's not reaching out for you. She's reaching inward, trying to understand her own reaction to your absence. Because the door that once stood open, the one she thought she could return through any time, is now shut. And she's not sure how to feel about that. She tries to gauge how much of you is still emotionally available, how much of your heart still reacts, how much of your attention she still commands. But you've stopped responding, not just in messages, but in energy. She feels it, even if she never says it, even if she stays silent. She feels it because the emotional tether she once relied on is gone. And what replaced it? Stillness, presence, purpose. She used to feel adored. Now she feels unacknowledged. Not because you're punishing her, but because you no longer seek her recognition. You no longer give her the power to shape your identity. She doesn't know how to place herself in your life anymore, and that is the shift. Because she used to be the reference point, the measuring stick for your joy, your pain, your ambition. Now, she's no longer in the equation, and that creates emotional dissonance because she sees it clearly. Your life isn't stagnant. It's moving, growing, becoming, not out of revenge, but evolution. Your silence isn't a tactic. It's a transition. It means you've stopped defining your life around someone who left. You've started defining it around someone who stayed. You. And when your life starts reflecting growth, not performance, but real change, it shows. Your posture changes. Your tone deepens. Your gaze sharpens. Your smile becomes honest. And that version of you, she doesn't recognize him because he's not begging, he's not asking, he's not performing. He's present, focused, composed, and above all, is unavailable, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. He no longer reacts. He no longer flinches. He no longer waits for closure because he already gave it to himself. And that's when the tension hits her, not because she wants you back, but because she realizes she no longer has influence, and maybe she never meant to lose it, but it's gone. She's now on the outside, watching a man she once knew become someone she can't reach. And the hardest part, you didn't do it to make her feel anything. You did it because you finally stopped needing to feel something through her. You stopped negotiating your peace. You stopped tying your worth to someone else's presence. You stopped chasing what wasn't reaching back. And in doing so, you became unshakable, not because you built walls, but because you built a foundation Not because you closed your heart, but because you finally centered it. And now, you're no longer waiting to be noticed. You're no longer lingering in hope. You're walking in purpose. She may notice, she may not, but it no longer matters. Because you didn't become this man for her. You became him. For you. You didn't lose her. You outgrew her. And that's not something you'll ever need to explain, because it doesn't show up in a single moment. It shows up in all the little ones you used to break under, that now you walk through with calm. Most men never fully grasp how far they've come, because healing isn't loud, it's not posted, it's not rewarded, it's done in silence. You don't get applause for choosing peace over pain. You don't get credit for walking away when every part of you wanted to stay. You don't get recognized for no longer responding to the things that used to ruin you. But the results, they're undeniable. One day, you look up and you're no longer flinching at her name, no longer rehearsing conversations that never happened, no longer checking if she saw your story. You're just free, not because she gave you closure, but because you finally realized you didn't need it. True growth isn't found in revenge, or rebound, or who wins the breakup. It's found in your stillness, in the way you no longer bend for approval, in how you stay grounded when silence returns, in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. You're no longer triggered by what used to tear you apart. The same patterns that once pulled you into self-doubt now pass through you. Her absence no longer feels like loss. Her opinion no longer holds weight. Her energy no longer steers your direction. And maybe it didn't happen all at once. Maybe it came in waves. Long nights of silence, weeks of confusion, quiet mornings where you had to rebuild from nothing. But here you are now, present, composed, intentional. And not because she returned, but because you did. You returned to your values, to your strength, to your center, and the life you're living now. It's no longer defined by her presence or her absence. It's defined by you. She no longer gets to appear and affect your rhythm. She no longer gets to press a button and watch you fall apart. She no longer holds emotional access to your peace. And that access, it used to be her comfort zone, but now it's closed, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with growth, because your life didn't pause when she left. It didn't fall apart. It accelerated. The moment you stopped waiting for someone who already walked away, you gave yourself permission to become the man you were meant to be, without needing her to see it, validate it, or participate in it. That's what it means to outgrow her, not just to survive the pain, but to become someone even she wouldn't recognize. Someone stronger, more focused, more rooted. A man who no longer seeks closure because he became the closure. You stopped explaining your worth. You stopped revisiting conversations that never gave clarity. You stopped negotiating your self-respect. Now, your time is invested in your body, your discipline, your peace. What used to be emotional dependency has matured into self-respect, and she feels the void where your attention used to live. She notices the absence of the man who once placed her at the center of his emotional world, and whether she says it or not, something in her knows. She no longer has the power to shift you. She doesn't get to wander back into your life and expect the same version of you to be waiting because he's gone. You're no longer writing your story with her as the backdrop. You're no longer living in a chapter she authored. You've taken back the pen. And now, your narrative unfolds without needing her input. Your success doesn't need her applause. Your peace doesn't require her permission. And your happiness isn't waiting for her return. That's real growth. That's the moment the game changes, because you didn't just move on. You evolved beyond the version of you that ever needed her to begin with. And when she sees that, through your energy, your silence, your forward motion, she doesn't just feel distance, she feels disconnection. She realizes you've become a man. She no longer has access to, and that, my brother, is the win. No one can take from you. You don't have to post it. You don't have to prove it. You live it. If you made it this far, it means you're not broken. You're building. You're not lost. You're learning. You're not disparate. You're dangerous. Because you've stopped chasing and started becoming. So if this message hit you where it needed to, like this video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below with one word, untouchable, not for validation, but as a reminder to yourself that you are no longer someone who begs, bends, or breaks for the wrong woman. You are not what she forgot. You are what she'll never have access to again. This channel exists for men like you, men who don't settle, men who rise. There are brothers out there drowning in silence, thinking they're alone. By engaging here, you make sure they hear the truth you just heard. Because this isn't just content, it's a mindset, it's a shift, it's a movement, and you're part of it now. You're not broken, you're just getting started. Have you ever stood in front of a woman and thought, she already knows, I'm not what she's looking for? You lower your voice, you shrink your presence, because deep down, you've already assumed the outcome. But here's a truth that most men never realize. Most women don't actually know what they want until they feel it. Not when they see it, not when they hear it, but when they feel a man's presence that doesn't bend to their approval. And that's what this is about. You've been told attraction is instant, that if she doesn't show interest right away, she never will, that once you're rejected, the game is over. But that's not how reality works. Attraction is not a lightning strike. It's a quiet shift. And often, the shift begins after you've stopped trying to impress her. If you've ever walked away from an interaction wondering, was I not tall enough? Not rich enough? Not her type? You've missed the real question. The question is, did you show up as a man she's never met before? Calm, grounded, and certain of his value. Because that man, he doesn't seek approval. He doesn't chase. He doesn't perform. He enters the room already full. He listens more than he speaks. He doesn't try to be liked. He simply is. And when a woman meets that kind of man, her perception begins to shift. Not because you begged for her interest, but because you refused to need it. In a world where most men fall to pieces at the first sign of coldness, you're about to learn how to remain centered. This video isn't about tricks. It's not about lines. And it's definitely not about pretending. It's about becoming the kind of man who changes the energy in the room without saying a word. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to approach any woman, not by proving yourself, but by proving to yourself that you no longer chase what doesn't serve you. Let's begin. 1. Don't worship her beauty. Observe her behavior. Most men surrender their power the moment they meet a beautiful woman, not because she takes it, but because they give it away. They see her face, her body, her presence, and suddenly, they forget what really matters. They stop evaluating. They start performing. But here's the truth. Beauty is not rare. Character is. And what separates a man of depth from the rest is his ability to look beyond appearances. Because beauty fades, but behavior reveals everything. So instead of reacting to how she looks, watch how she moves through the world. How does she treat people she doesn't need? How does she handle silence? How does she respond to not being the center of attention? The man who watches instead of chasing is the man who remains in control. Women are used to being adored instantly. They expect praise. They expect pursuit. But when you don't follow the script, when you don't fall into their rhythm, they notice, and they don't know why you're different. But they feel it. That mystery, that unpredictability, isn't a tactic. It's what happens when you value yourself enough to observe before engaging. Let me give you an example. You walk into a lounge. There's a gorgeous woman at the bar. Every guy is staring, smiling, waiting for their turn. But you sit, you watch. You notice how she speaks to the bartender. Is she dismissive, polite, entitled? You hear what she talks about. Is it only herself or something with depth? You observe not to judge, but to understand. And from that place of awareness, you make a choice. Most men ignore red flags because they're intoxicated by looks. But you've trained your eyes to see deeper. You don't chase what's shiny. You wait to see what's solid. And when she realizes you're not enchanted by her beauty, you become the one she wants to figure out. Because self-restraint is rare, stillness is powerful, and indifference to her appearance makes your presence impossible to ignore. That's the quiet strength of a Stoic man. He doesn't worship what the world tells him to desire. He defines value on his own terms. So let others rush to flatter her. You slow down. You don't speak to impress. You observe to understand. Because in a world that chases image, you seek essence. And that choice is what sets you apart. 2. Stop chasing her. You are the prize. Most men walk into a conversation with a woman already defeated. They don't say it, but you can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice. I hope she likes me. I hope I'm enough. I hope I don't say the wrong thing. That mindset, that's the reason she loses interest before the first sentence finishes. Because here's the truth. When you approach a woman like she's better than you, she'll believe it too. And when she senses you're chasing her approval, she pulls away. Not because she's cruel, but because neediness is repelling. It signals weakness, and weakness is never attractive. You've been told your whole life that women are the prize, that your job is to impress, to convince, to earn her time, that you must prove yourself worthy. Movies, music, social media, they all whisper the same lie. Win her over, and you win happiness. But that's not the truth. You are the prize, not because of arrogance, not because you think you're better, but because you know your value. You know what you bring. You know what you stand for. The man who walks in knowing this, he moves differently. He speaks without hesitation. He doesn't seek permission to lead. He doesn't shrink to be liked. He stands tall, calm, and sure of who he is. And that energy, that's magnetic. Women notice it, even if they don't say it. They feel it, because confidence, real confidence, doesn't perform. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't chase applause. It just is. You want her to respect you, then stop proving yourself. Start holding yourself. You don't need to act alpha. You don't need to dominate the room. You just need to stop handing your worth to her attention. She's not the judge of your value. She's just another person, trying to figure out if you fit her life, just like you should be figuring out if she fits yours. Ask yourself, do you walk into a room hoping to be chosen, or do you walk in already chosen by yourself? This shift in mindset changes everything. You're no longer chasing. You're evaluating. You're no longer begging. You're observing. You're not saying, "I hope she picks me." You're asking, "Does she deserve a place in my world?" Because your world, your peace, your time, your presence are not cheap. They are earned. And the minute you stop putting her on a pedestal, the minute you stop bending just to be seen, you rise. You stop trying to get her to see your worth, because you've already seen it yourself. And once you do that, something powerful happens. She starts to lean in. She starts to question. She starts to wonder, who is this man who doesn't need me to like him? That's when attraction begins. Not when you chase, but when you stand still and let her come to you. This isn't ego. This is balance. You've spent too long thinking you're not enough. But the truth is, you've just been acting like she is more than you. She's not. You're not. You're equal. But the man who knows his worth always becomes the one worth chasing. 3. Approach without needing her to like you. Here's the paradox. No one tells you. The more you need her to like you, the less she will. Not because you're not good enough, but because neediness pushes her away. It smells like insecurity. It tells her without a word that you've placed her above you, and a man who puts her on a pedestal has already stepped off his own. That's how most men lose the moment before it even begins. They walk up with a hidden agenda, not to connect, but to get something: approval, attention, validation. And women feel that energy. It's subtle, but it's real. She may not know what's off, but her instincts do. You've been there. That tension in your chest, that pressure to say the right thing, that fear of silence. You're not in the moment. You're in your head, calculating. Why? Because deep down, you've already tied your self-worth to her response. That's the trap. Attachment to outcome. It's not about what you say, it's about why you're saying it. When you walk into an interaction hoping to be liked, you hand over your emotional stability to a stranger, and every word, every pause, every gesture becomes a performance. But here's the truth. Real power is when you no longer need anything in return. You approach because you're full, not empty. You're curious, not disparity. You're not fishing for approval. You're offering presence. The most attractive men don't chase outcomes. They don't mold themselves to be accepted. They show up as they are and let the moment reveal what's real. If she connects, great. If she doesn't, also great. Either way, the man walks away whole, because his self-respect doesn't swing on someone else's opinion. This is the shift. You stop trying to win her. You start watching if she aligns with you. You don't talk to impress. You speak to express. You don't fear reaction. You recognize redirection. And when that becomes your reality, you reclaim your freedom. You no longer fear silence. You no longer chase reaction. You're grounded in who you are. Let her respond how she wants. Let her feel what she feels. That's not your responsibility. Your only job is to show up as yourself, unapologetically, calmly, completely. Because when a woman sees that you're not trying to impress her, she starts wondering why. And that question sparks interest, not because you played a game, but because you weren't playing one at all. She starts to sense something different, something rare. A man who doesn't seek approval because he already has his own. This kind of presence is magnetic, not loud, not flashy, but steady, unshakable. She'll remember the way you looked at her without flinching, the way you held space instead of filling it, the way you made her feel seen without losing sight of yourself. That's the man she thinks about later. Not because he begged for attention, but because he gave her something real to respond to. So next time you see her, don't approach to get something. Approach to give her a chance, to experience someone who doesn't need anything from her. And whether she's drawn to you or not, you walk away the same man you were before. Whole, steady, and unshaken. That's not indifference. That's power. 4. Flirt boldly, then pull back. Most men flirt like they're trying to win a prize. Too many words, too much praise, too desperate to be liked. But flirting isn't about proving anything. It's about creating tension, then walking away from it. It's about making her feel something she can't explain. Real flirting doesn't chase. It dares. It teases. And then it disappears. When you flirt, let her know you're interested. But don't worship her. No begging. No excessive compliments. No validation overload. Look her in the eyes. Smile with confidence. Say something bold. Then back off. Why? Because attention without absence is just noise. But attention that vanishes, that becomes memory. She expects your focus. So when you shift it away calmly, without drama, you trigger uncertainty. And uncertainty is powerful. It lives in her mind. It makes her wonder. It creates that small, electric question. Wait, what just happened? That's the start of attraction. Flirt like you know your worth. Because the man who's not afraid to step away is the man who owns the moment. This isn't about playing games. It's about creating space. Because in that space, curiosity grows. And curiosity is what makes her think of you long after the conversation ends. Here's how it works. You tease her gently. You lean in just enough. You give her a spark. Then you walk. Maybe you turn to talk to someone else. Maybe you leave her message on read. Not out of spite, but to remind her that your energy isn't free. Most men flood women with attention, hoping it'll lead to attraction, but all it does is drown the mystery. Mystery is what moves her. Mystery is what keeps her mind active. And when you flirt boldly, then disappear, you give her something to chase. Just when she thinks she understands you, you change rhythm. You slow down. You go quiet. Not cold, not rude, just unavailable for a moment. That's when her emotions catch up. That's when she starts chasing. Push, pull, fire, silence. That's how tension is built. That's how attraction lasts. Remember, you're not trying to be predictable. You're trying to be unforgettable. So flirt with presence, then pull away with purpose. Make her feel your absence. As much as she felt your presence, let her earn the next moment. Let her feel the contrast. And when you reappear, she'll be listening closer, watching tighter, investing more. That's not manipulation. That's awareness. That's control. That's power. 5. Challenge here. Don't compliment her. Most men think compliments are the way in. Tell her she's beautiful. Tell her she's amazing. Tell her what every other man already has. They believe that flattery earns favor. That praise equals progress. But here's the truth. It doesn't. In fact, too many compliments do the opposite. They make you seem unsure of yourself, like you're trying to buy her attention. And women can feel that. The energy of a man who's giving to get something, it's not attractive, it's needy. Because when every word is a validation, you're not leading, you're following, you're not connecting, you're hoping. And hoping isn't masculine. It's uncertain, it's soft, it's invisible. So what should you do instead? Challenge here. Not to argue, not to belittle, but to remind her that you see through surface. Because women don't crave constant approval, they crave stimulation, mental, emotional, energetic. They want to be around someone who makes them think, who questions their assumptions, who doesn't just nod along and agree with everything. Why? Because challenge creates contrast. It separates you from every man who flatters her. It signals strength. It shows you have your own thoughts, your own spine, your own presence. Imagine this. She says something you disagree with. Most men smile, nod, and pretend to care. You pose, you look her in the eye, and you say, "I don't see it that way." That's a moment she won't forget. Not because you rejected her, but because you stood your ground. She'll feel it. That rare tension, the spark of someone she can't control. And that spark, it's attractive. You're not just another echo. You're a man with depth. A man she can't predict. A man who doesn't need her approval to feel like himself. Challenge isn't confrontation. It's clarity. It's knowing that your role isn't to make her feel comfortable all the time. It's to be real, to bring your full self to the moment, to test if she can meet you where you truly stand. That's what makes it powerful. It doesn't mean being rude. It doesn't mean always disagreeing. It means being honest, sharp, and selective. Ask her better questions. Dig deeper into what she believes. Push her gently to think in ways she hasn't. Not to break her down, but to see if she can stand up next to you. Because attraction isn't built on agreement, it's built on tension, on contrast, on the feeling of being challenged and inspired at the same time. And here's the beauty of it. When you challenge her in the right way, she becomes more invested, more engaged. She leans in, not because she's being entertained, but because she's being seen. You're not chasing her. You're inviting her into something deeper, into a dynamic where respect replaces approval. Because compliments make her feel good, but challenges make her feel alive. So don't tell her what she wants to hear. Tell her what's real. Speak like a man who knows himself, not to prove you're right, but to show that you won't disappear just to be liked. Let your presence say, "I'm not here to impress, I'm here to express." And that kind of energy, it doesn't just attract her, it awakens her. 6. Make her earn your interest. One of the strongest moves a man can make is to stop giving his interest away for free. Most men reveal their hand too early. They give attention too soon. They compliment too often. They express desire without standards. And just like that, the mystery is gone. The value disappears. You've shown her that you're already invested, before she's even earned your attention. And the truth is, what comes easy rarely gets respected. Women don't fall for what they can have without effort. They fall for what they must rise to reach. If you give your time, your attention, your energy too quickly, you rob her of the experience of earning you. You become another man in line, not a man of value. So what's the shift? You don't act cold. You don't play games. You simply stop handing over your interest without purpose. She should feel it. That you're observing, not offering. That you're weighing, not chasing. You're not here to entertain. You're here to decide. A high-value man doesn't move fast because he's not desperate. He moves with calm, with choice, with standard. He knows his interest is rare, and if she wants it, she must earn it. This doesn't mean arrogance. It means discernment. It means knowing that your attention is currency and you don't spend it recklessly. When a woman doesn't have to work for your energy, she doesn't value it. It becomes background noise, expected, entitled. But when she senses that you're different, that you're centered in your own mission, that you're not available to just anyone. Her frame changes. She begins to question, why isn't he chasing me? What does he actually want? What makes him so self-assured? And that questioning becomes curiosity. That curiosity becomes attraction. You don't have to say anything flashy. You don't have to withhold affection in some manipulative way. You just hold your center. You stay focused on your path. And she becomes the one deciding how she can step into your world, not the other way around. Think of it like this. You are the fire. She is drawn to the warmth. But if you keep throwing wood at the flame for no reason, it will choke, it will smother, and she'll walk away from the heat you tried too hard to give. Instead, let the fire burn steady, strong, without needing attention. That's what draws her in. Women are drawn to men who are already fulfilled, who don't need them to feel valuable, who don't prove themselves by chasing. And when she senses that your world is full, but that there's room for someone worthy, she begins to qualify herself. She begins to pursue, not because you withheld affection, but because you didn't offer it too easily. This is how the power dynamic shifts. You're no longer performing. You're no longer reacting. You're choosing. So the next time you meet a woman, don't start with compliments. Don't start with open doors and open plans. Start with presence. Start with stillness. Start with the quiet truth that she needs to earn her place beside you. Let your energy say, I'm not impressed by looks. I don't need you to validate me. I have peace, and you'll have to bring more than charm to earn it. Because the man who gives his interest too soon gets forgotten just as fast. But the man who guards it like something precious becomes unforgettable. 7. Leave before she gets comfortable. Most men make the same mistake. They stay too long. They give too much. They try too hard to prove they're worth staying for. And in doing so, they lose the very thing that made them interesting in the first place: mystery. Attraction is not built in constant presence. It's built in space. It grows in absence, in curiosity, in the gaps between connection. But too many men fear losing her, so they cling. They become available at all hours. They respond instantly. They show up every time she calls before she even wonders if you might be busy. And when she never has to work for your time, she begins to assume it holds no value. Let me be clear. If she never gets the chance to miss you, she'll never realize what it feels like to crave you. You need to leave not because you're cold, but because you know how powerful your absence can be. It's easy to think that staying longer, giving more, always being there will deepen the bond. But in reality, you're training her to take you for granted. You're teaching her that your presence is expected, not earned. That's when the energy shifts. She gets comfortable. She stops chasing. She stops wondering. And slowly, the spark dies. You don't have to disappear completely, but you do have to know when to exit the room. Exit the conversation while it's still alive. End the night while she still wants more. Let the text go unanswered for just long enough to remind her you have a life outside of her attention. That's not playing games. That's creating polarity. That's how you protect the edge that makes you desirable. When you leave while the moment still holds heat, you become unresolved in her mind. You leave a trace, and it's in that trace that desire takes root. Men who never leave, who overstay every interaction, who keep talking when the silence would have said more, fade into the background. They become predictable, forgettable. But the man who knows when to step away, he lingers in her thoughts. He keeps her guessing. He stays rare. Here's the rule. Don't let your presence become noise. Let it be an event. Be the kind of man who values his time, who doesn't offer it on demand, because a man who respects his own energy forces others to do the same. And when she realizes that your time isn't guaranteed, that your attention has boundaries, she starts to chase what was once chasing her. Make her earn your return. Let her feel the stillness when you're gone. Let her wonder where you went, what you're doing, and when she'll get to experience you again. Most men stay too long out of fear, but the Stoic man leaves from strength. He knows that walking away at the right moment amplifies his presence more than staying ever could. So don't apologize for your space. Don't fear her disappointment. Don't shrink just to stay close. Be willing to walk, not because you want her to suffer, but because you refuse to stay where you're no longer felt. That's how you stay unforgettable. That's how you keep the fire alive. If you've been bending over backward to win her over, texting non-stop, over-complimenting, trying to be the perfect guy, take a breath. That path only leads one way, to invisibility. When a man chases approval, he loses presence. And once you give away your energy without boundaries, you stop being respected. The truth is, you were never meant to be everyone's type, and you don't have to be. Rejection isn't a sign you're not good enough. It's a filter. It removes those who were never aligned with your worth in the first place. You're not here to impress her. You're here to be honest, to lead your life from the center, with or without her recognition. Women are drawn to men who have direction, who live by principle, not permission, who offer their time with intention, and don't lower their standards just to be accepted. So, if you've been stuck in that cycle of needing validation, stop. You don't need to prove anything, not to her, not to anyone. The man who walks away from what doesn't honor him becomes more powerful than the one who stays to be chosen. Let her feel your absence. If your presence isn't appreciated, let her miss what she once took for granted. And above all, let your silence say what your words no longer need to. Because at the end of the day, you're not the one hoping to be worthy. You are the standard. Now it's your move. If this spoke to something in you, drop a comment and let others know they're not alone. Because every time a man rises in silence, he reminds others of what it means to be unshakable.